Former attorney at law Jennifer Messado will stand trial March the 1st next year on allegations that she defrauded dancehall entertainer Mavado of more than $30 million. However, attorney at law Christopher Townsend, who represents the embattled Messado, believes that Singh J. Mavado ought to be focused on pursuing redress through the civil courts instead of the criminal courts. People, how is her defense attorney telling the claimant, telling the plaintiff what they should be doing and that they shouldn't be going to trial via criminal court and rather going through civil courts? What kind of sense does that make? Who's right? It's his right to pursue the case through the criminal courts. Her lawyer can't turn around and say, nah, do you know what? Like, we don't fancy this one. Let's go through the civil courts instead. And furthermore, if he's a criminal lawyer, chances are he wouldn't even be representing her if it went to civil court. He'd wash his hands of the whole case. So he doesn't even have to take an L on this one, which he knows he's looking to take. But you can't say that. That's like almost like a witness intimidation thing. If this is still an open case that's being investigated and the trial date has been set, how are you coming out in the big Jamaica Observer in the press and talking about it? And not only talking about it, telling Mavado or urging Mavado to take it to civil court. It's almost like it just sounds fishy. It sounds fishy, especially if you think about what Mavado's gone through in the last year with his son Dante and his incarceration. If I was Mavado, I'd be very, very suspicious. Is this a threat? Is this like a low-key threat by them to say, do you know what, don't go through the criminal courts or something bad might happen? Do you get what I'm trying to say? The reason he's so brazen and going to the newspapers with it, it's like surely that's a breach of his code of conduct during an open trial. It doesn't make any sense. I haven't really, you can't do that. So either it's some kind of threat, or it's just gross misconduct. Like, you can't be behaving like that. So, yeah, like I said, if I was Mavado, I'd be very, very suspicious. Like, my faith in the legal system would already be tarnished by what I've seen and what's happened before. And now this. So, what's he going to do next? Is he going to say, do you know what, let me take this as a threat and just take it through civil courts? Or should I, stand my ground and take it through the criminal court? Because if he goes through criminal court, he's going to win the case. Like, it's cut and dry. At the time of Messado's arrest, apparently she had already been investigated by anti-terrorism and counter-fraud units in Jamaica. And she already investigated by 7 other cases. 7 other people had come forward and said she'd defrauded them for millions and millions of dollars as well. So there was already an investigation at the time of her arrest. Never mind Mavado's case, but obviously we know how it goes, people. Because Mavado being who he is and being a big celebrity, he's going to get treated different to the other plaintiffs, right? But yeah, I don't know. It's suspicious. And you know what? Because of that, I looked into Mr. Christopher Townsend and kind of to see what his background was and if he's got caught up in any of these type of things before. And whilst I couldn't find anything specific, the interesting thing about Christopher Townsend, is that he got invited by United Nations to join the Human Rights Defense. Now, the Human Rights Defense is like a branch or arm's length of the United Nations. And let me read to you what his brief is, as a Jamaican lawyer, what his brief is in terms of what he's going to be doing for the United Nations. So he's got the power to investigate on behalf of the organization any breaches of human rights in any country, particularly in the Caribbean. So basically, the guy's a snitch. Let's call a spade a spade. Like, I know a snitch when I see one. Like, he's moving like a snitch. He's being sent, by the United Nations, by this little side arm department, the Human Rights Defense, to investigate acts of breaches of human rights, especially in the Caribbean. And he's got the power to do that. So that power supersedes any local jurisdiction because it's been afforded to him by the United Nations. And we already know how they move. That's a whole nother story for a whole nother video. But that just makes me very suspicious about how Christopher Townsend is moving, and the fact that he's got the power and the nerve and the guile just to come out in the papers and tell Mavado, do you know what? Don't even go criminal courts. Let me tell you, go civil courts. It'll be better off for you. That's almost how it sounds to me. So what kind of backing and who's backing him and who's giving him the power to be able to say that? I don't know about you, but anything associated with United Nations, I'm already looking at it sideways, especially if United Nations are moving in the Caribbean and moving in Jamaica and looking for breaches of human rights. Because we've seen how that plays out in Africa. We've seen how that plays out in the Middle East. We know what that looks like. There's a precedent to that. There's history. Again, it's another video for another day. Like, you know, I'm sure you know what I'm alluding to, and I'm sure you can do your own research on that. But as soon as the United Nations get involved in small Jamaica and in our little island, boy. So that's the background to Christopher Townsend. So I don't know, like I said, something just feels off with this. So should Mavado be taking this as some sort of threat? Should he be backing down and just taking it through civil court, even though we know he ain't going to get his money back, most probably, if Messado's already claimed that she's bankrupt? Or should he stand his ground and say, no, I'm going to go through criminal court because she needs to be prosecuted. Crimes are committed here. It's not just a civil thing. It's not just a money dispute. Like, this is some heavy fraud going on. Why should she not be held accountable and prosecuted accordingly based on, you know, with the full powers of the law, just because he's Mavado? Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, why should she get off the hook because he's Mavado and he should just go through the civil courts? And not only that, yeah, by Townsend telling him to go through civil court, this is the thing. With these big kind of trials, yeah, you can go through criminal court. If Mavado's paying for his own prosecution, yeah, he's paying for his own attorneys out of his own pocket. So if he can afford to do that, what's stopping you from doing that? You could go through the whole criminal court, the whole criminal trial, and he could lose the trial. And after he loses the trial, let's say he did, he could then take it to civil court and possibly win the trial, because criminal law and civil law aren't the same thing. I'll give you an example. So during the OJ case, if you remember, the defendants, the plaintiffs, so Nicole's prosecution team and her family and her estate, obviously they went to criminal trial, and OJ bust case, he was found not guilty. But subsequently, they took it to civil trial and they won the civil trial. So obviously they were awarded damages and all the rest of it. So that's how it goes. You go criminal court first, and then depending on the outcome, you can then later pursue it during civil court. So him going criminal court first don't mean he can't later go civil court as well and get a double whammy and hold her to full account and full justice. So the fact that Christopher Townsend's telling him, nah, skip the criminal part because I want to keep my flawless record intact. I don't want to take an L in criminal court and make my records look bad. I'm working for the big United Nations out here. Do you get what I'm saying? That's how he's probably looking at it. Or like I said, it could be some sort of threat. I don't know. Like, you know, Mavado's been shot at before on multiple occasions. So like it's a dangerous situation. It's a techie one, but boy, I hope Mavado holds his ground, holds his head, and does the right thing, because you can't just be going around like thieving people's money and doing all the rest of it. It's all mad, people. Anyway, Live 25. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Drop a like on the video. And until the next time, later.